This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Balata.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musef.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Balata.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musef.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Balata.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musef.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Balata.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musef.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809 645 3535 or Shegun on 0812 024 3167 or Daniel on 0802 756 4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business.
Nigeria records an estimated 269,109 prevalent cancer cases over a 5-year period, with breast cancer accounting for more than 38% of all female cancer diagnoses, and prostate cancer making up 30% of male cancer cases. Your health is your greatest asset, and that's why Business Day Television invites you to our monthly health webinar, where we bring vital health conversations closer to you. Join us Thursday, 9th July, as seasoned medical experts discuss the cancer conversation, prevention, early detection, breast and prostate health. Gain practical insights, ask your questions, and learn how early action can save lives. Because every life matters, every health conversation counts. Scan the QR code to register and be part of the conversation right here on Business Day Television. It's a beautiful Thursday morning this morning, and you're welcome to Business Morning Live right here on Business Day Television, and you're welcome to the show. Of course, we're going to be starting off with the news, and then we move on to the newspaper review. From the newspaper review, we bring you the conversations on the Business Morning Live, then we head to the big story, and then we conclude with the social listening segment. We'll go on a quick break now. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the news making the rounds. Just stay with us. Live show. I am Deborah Eze. Now let's see what's making the headlines. Federal government heavy borrowing drives bond yields higher. Senate rejects probe of 1.3 billion naira allocation to alleged fake agency. Pension recapitalization sparks first major industry merger. And FIFA 2026 World Cup ticket prices drop by over 50%. Now let's begin the news as the federal government's increased borrowing from the domestic debt market is pushing bond yields higher as investors demand greater returns to lend to the government. Analysts say the higher yields reflect growing demand for compensation amid rising government borrowing requirements and expectations that interest rates could remain elevated. The development has attracted investors seeking better returns on fixed income securities, but could also increase the government's debt servicing costs. And market watchers note that while the bond market continues to record strong investor interest, sustained heavy borrowing may crowd out private sector access to credit and raise financing costs across the economy. And moving on, the Senate of Nigeria has rejected a motion seeking an investigation into the 1.3 billion naira budget allocation to the alleged Presidential Fleet and Infrastructure Protection Committee, amid growing controversy over the agency's legal status. The motion, which called for a probe into how the agency secured a budgetary allocation, despite claims that it was not legally established, failed to gain the Senate approval. Lawmakers declined to open an investigation, effectively halting the proposed inquiry. The development comes amid conflicting statements from government officials over the existence and funding of the agency, with the controversy raising fresh questions about transparency, budget oversight, and accountability in the management of public funds. In other news, Nigeria's pension industry has recorded its first major merger following the ongoing recapitalization exercise with Premium Pension Limited and Trust Fund Pensions PLC agreeing to combine operations. The merger comes as pension fund administrators move to meet new capital requirements introduced by the regulator to strengthen the industry's financial capacity and improve service delivery. Industry stakeholders say the consolidation is expected to create a stronger institution with a larger asset and enhance operational efficiency. Analysts believe the development could pave the way for more mergers and acquisitions across the pension sector as operators reposition to comply with the recapitalization directive and remain competitive in Nigeria's evolving pension industry. And to end the news, ticket prices for selected matches at the 2026 FIFA World Cup have fallen by more than 50%, reflecting weaker than expected demand in some host cities, despite the tournament's global appeal. The sharp decline has been attributed to an increase in ticket supply, dynamic pricing adjustments by organizers, and slower sales for certain fixtures. Analysts say the move is aimed at improving stadium attendance and making matches more accessible to fans. While premium knockout fixtures continue to attract strong demand, prices for several group stage and less sought-after matches have been reduced significantly. The development highlights the challenges of balancing commercial revenue with fan affordability at the expanded 48-team tournament. And that does it this morning on the Business Morning live show. I am Deborah Eze. Up next is the newspaper review. Just stay with us.
The government of Japan has donated $853,000 in food assistance to the United Nations Food Programme, WFP, to strengthen humanitarian support for vulnerable communities in northeast Nigeria. According to the WFP, the donation comes at a critical time as millions of people across Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states continue to face severe food insecurities caused by years of conflict, displacements, climate shocks, and rising food prices. The WFP says the funding will help sustain emergency food assistance for families struggling to meet their daily food needs. The organization also noted that food assistance not only addresses hunger, but also helps improve community stability by reducing the risk associated with displacement and insecurity. The agency called on other international partners to support ongoing humanitarian efforts, warning that worsening economic conditions and persistent insecurity continue to increase the number of people in need of assistance. According to the projection by United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, and other humanitarian partners, about 34.7 million Nigerians could face acute food insecurity during the 2026 lean season, highlighting the urgent need for sustained international support. Japan's latest contribution will support the WFP's ongoing emergency food assistance program aimed at helping vulnerable households rebuild their lives while easing the humanitarian crisis in northeast Nigeria. As food insecurity continues to threaten millions of lives, sustained collaboration between governments, humanitarian organizations, and development partners will remain essential to addressing immediate needs and building long-term resilience in affected communities.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, Start your day with Business Day.
Business Day is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, Business Day has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. At Business Day, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications. From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision-makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, Business Day fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. Business Day is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, Business Day is your guide.
As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809 645 3535 or Shegun on 0812 024 3167 or Daniel on 0802 756 4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business. As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809 645 3535 or Shegun on 0812 024 3167 or Daniel on 0802 756 4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insights into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musef.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
Good morning and welcome to the Business Morning Live. My name is Elizabeth Musa and we're ready to see what we have on the front page of the papers this morning. And I'm not doing it alone. I'm joined by in-house analyst who joins us virtually this morning, Mohammed Akanji. Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm well, thank you. But I think I should ask you about how the floods are treating you. I know it's because of the floods you're not here today. So how are you coping? Oh, well, I think we're all seeing the flood and the rain. We're just pushing through regardless. So we should really pat ourselves on the back for showing up despite how flooded and the situation of things. But yeah, I mean, we just hope that the rains... You wanted to say something? So I just said, I said, I hope that the rains will come and then go and we can go back to our regular day-to-day. But let's see what we have on the front page of the Business Day paper this morning. The big story on the front page of the Business Day paper this morning says federal government record borrowing pushes bond yields higher as investors demand bigger returns. That's on the front page of Business Day this morning. Again, it says premium trust fund merge in first pension recapitalization deal. Still on the front page of Business Day this morning. And it says Circle Ventures invest $3.25 billion in Flutterwave to expand stablecoin payment. Those are some of the top stories that we have on the front page of Business Day newspaper. Is there anyone that you want to share your thoughts on? I think you'll be very interested in the record borrowing.
Yes. I think I just before we actually be able to jump to the story, I was trying to pivot to that. But I hope you can hear me. Am I audible enough, Elizabeth?
Carry on.
Elizabeth, am I audible? Okay, good. So I was just trying to remember the US-Israel war. You know, the way we started again, and I'm sure I really just be able to pick your brain about that. You know, we're really hoping for a price of petrol that will be able to go to less than 1,000 naira. But the reactivation of the war since Wednesday, I mean, it's been a very touchy and thorny issue at the moment. We hope and actually pray that this power blocks will be able to resolve their issues. But let me also be able to go to them. I think the first story that you pick, with respect to federal government record borrowing, especially for the domestic borrowing, and what we have seen so far, I've actually been able to push yield returns to be actually very, very high. Now, remember that government borrowed through the issuance of bonds, and we've seen that the local debt, has actually ballooned in the last 2 years. We've seen that that has actually been able to go to about 130 something trillion naira in terms of how much the government has actually borrowed. What that send a signal to us is the fact that most of the investors, especially local investors and also foreign investors that are investing in local assets as well, are not demanding higher yields from the government, higher returns. I think there have been discussions around the way this has actually crowded out credit to businesses. We've seen that the government has actually ramped up a lot of borrowing. And this is also not unconnected to some level of economic stability that I think have actually been achieved. So we're now seeing, from this particular report, from this particular editorial piece, that investors who actually are willing to be able to part away with their money are now demanding for more returns, from the government. And this is a kind of a dynamic that we've seen, the 24-month treasury bills, bond yields, and some other things that we've actually been seeing. I think, in fact, one of the reports there mentioned about the fact that the government's 34.5 trillion fiscal deficit for the 2026 budget, for example, it's expected that a larger chunk of that 30 trillion will be financed with further domestic borrowing. And so these are investors as well who also needed, who is actually putting out the money in expectation of returns, will definitely be able to demand higher yields from the government. So I think it is very important that we put that out there. The other thing that was actually very close to it, I think I thought whether you read that, was the IMF report. Okay, no, I think it's not this. It's Dangote's, yes. I think you read that, right? I'm not sure that I didn't hear it clearly. The Dangote's free petrol deliveries to states across Nigeria. But today, waking up this morning, we were trying, or personally, I was trying to be able to see what Dangote would do, especially against the fallout of the breakdown of the ceasefire deal, the peace deal between US and Iran, and what will likely be able to be the follow-up to that. But this is quite good, Remember that on Monday, the federal government, through the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Aniki Lokobiri, and that, for the Minister of State, met with major marketers, to see how can the price of petrol come down to below 1,000 naira. And I'm sure that they never actually expected that the NATO conference in Turkey on Tuesday, or the NATO summit, the NATO summit on Tuesday would have yielded that particular bombshell that Mr. Donald Trump, the enigma himself, would have dropped, about the deal with Iran breaking down. But I'm sure the government has been trying to be able to ramp up effort to ensure that the price of petrol will actually be able to go to less than $1,000. 1,000 naira, as we have actually seen. But Dangote mentioned that too, that today 6 states, especially the heavily impacted states, will actually be able to receive free deliveries. I think the last story I'd like to be able to jump on there was the Circle investors, this company, the Circle Ventures, investing about $3 billion in Flutterwave again. And we've seen, it's just stable coin, the Bitcoin market, the Ethereum market, the expansion and the kind of attention the market is actually getting these days is quite huge. And when that announcement, broke yesterday that further investment will be done to Flutterwave, to their stable coin that is actually yielding a very, very high return, it is really sending a lot of signals to investor confidence, and that there are still potentials for investors, when it comes to Nigerian stablecoin market.
Right, so let's move on and see what we have on the front page of the Punch paper this morning. On the front page of the Punch paper this morning, it says 2027 elections, 6 legal hurdles before INEC. That's the big story on the Punch newspaper this morning. And on the top right-hand side of the paper, it says, rising prices threaten Nigeria's poverty reduction gains. This is from the International Monetary Fund. This is on page 22 of the Punch papers. Again, on page 12, it says constituency project, alleged funding suspension throws reps into rowdy session. And we have a big spread here on the front page of the Punch. It goes door-to-door movement. Welcome to the inauguration of the national executives of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu door-to-door movement. This is still with respect to the forthcoming, all of the politics going on right now. Okay. But I want us to talk about the 2027 elections and the 6 legal orders before INEC. What more do you know about this legal orders we speak of?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Elizabeth. So I think one of the things that we've also seen is okay, the internet connection. So sorry about that. Elizabeth, can you hear me? So sorry.
Yes, I can hear you.
Has been on and off as well.
I can hear you. Please carry on, Mohammed. Mohammed. I think we might have lost Mohammed because we can't hear him anymore, but we can move on and see what we have on the front page of the Guardian papers this morning. Still on the front page of the Guardian page, this newspaper this morning is always quite an interesting spread on Guardian. The big story on the front page of the Guardian says, legal distractions, intimidation, weaken opposition's 2027 contest. Now, this is still ahead of the 2027 elections. There's going to be a lot of politics, a lot of politics and all of that. And on the top side, it says reps in rowdy session. That was also in the Punch papers. And then it goes on page 3. It says, Tunji's men kill 5 and abduct women in Sokoto State. And on page 4, State Police Buraha. Lagos Assembly rallies state on speedy approval and Northern governors meet. That's on the front page of the Guardian. That's a lot on the front page of the Guardian this morning. On page 4, it says NAN's names for the 3 institutions in Nel Fund double tuition scandal. That's a topic we'll probably speak on for Big Story very soon. We'll keep an eye on Big Story to be a part of it. But I know we have Mohammed back online. Mohammed, we're on the Guardian papers right now. I want us to talk about this legal distractions and intimidation that is weakening the opposition's 2027 contest. First of all, how is it looking like from your end for the 2027 contest?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me now? So sorry, I think I lost you for a while.
Sure, I can hear you.
Throw me out. So sorry. But can you hear me now, Elizabeth?
Sure. Please carry on.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I think I was trying to snack up on the issue of the legal tussle facing INEC ahead of the 2027 election. And I think it can also be able to weave in the story in the Guardian. And now, remember we've seen that since 27th of June to this Saturday, INEC expect all parties, they have been given access codes to started imputing the names of their candidates that will stand, their flag bearers, for the respective positions ahead of the January 16 and the February 6 general election next year. But I think from the expose done by Punch, we've had several legal matters, legal issues across different political platforms, political parties instituting one case or the other against INEC, as we have seen. And so if we look at that, this may also be able to create a lot of distractions. And that is exactly, we've seen the case of ADC, the case of NDC is there. We've seen the case of those 5 parties that are asked to be deregistered, the case of ZLP, And one legal issue or the other started coming in there. Apart from, in addition to the internal party wranglings, internal party issues that have actually dominated most of, especially the major political oppositions that we have. But one of the things that I think is very pivotal for us to note is that the outcome of some of those cases, they are actually expected to be able to determine, the extent of INEC administrative powers. For example, in terms of determining the date, a party took them to court over that. We had a party that took NDC to court called the PMP, Peace Movement Party, that went to court as well over the registration of NDC. We have, body of former legislative councils, former legislative members that took ADC and some other political parties as well to court. So, variety, litany of several legal issues will actually be able to balk perhaps the progress that INEC will have. But most of the discussions and most of the feelers emerging from INEC is the fact that they are more than ready. This is actually part of the political calculus whenever it happens, and they actually be able to put their house in order. But if you see that, you see different issues. I said the Youth Party of Nigeria, the challenges INEC timetable that it is against, that it does not be able to have the power to be able to do that. We have 6 of those cases what Punch tried to be able to highlight, and then see what will actually be. Most of them judgment have actually come in lower court. There have been appeals, to higher courts to where it can actually be done, and a whole lot of all those things actually be able to come out of the whole debate. But I'm sure we will be able to see them and see how this particular case will be able to pan out.
Right. Real quick, can we also talk about the PFIPC probing, which is dividing NAS as ADC, Atiku insists on independent inquiry? Is that something that you have a lot of details about? There's also this one on ex-policemen rejecting PENCOM's option B to protest poor welfare, which I think is really important right now because policemen really need to be well catered for. They've been abandoned for the longest time. So it'd be nice to see how it all pans out. One more, let me hear your thoughts on this.
Oh, yes. So maybe I should take it because I lost the last part of your discussion. But I can start from the IPC, right? Maybe I think you asked about that, the PFIPC, the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council. And I'm sure that the debate is still raging on. There have been several divides to the discussion. The president, remember, on Tuesday, set up the, ordered ICPC to thoroughly investigate the matter and report back in 30 days. We've also seen that Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila has launched a defamation suit against Mr. Adeniyi as well. And in fact, yesterday, the battle shifted to the National Assembly. While the Senate, insisted that they have no right to be able to wade into that particular matter, we see that it generated a lot of opprobrium in the House of Reps, and we see opposition vehemently, in fact, urging and asking that the president should actually be summoned before the Speaker of the House, insisted that, okay, maybe that may not actually be within their powers to be able to summon the president on this particular matter. And given the fact that the matter is in court, so as much as possible, I tried to be very, 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 wade into the matter because actually in a court case, July 27 is the pending court case. But yesterday, I think I listened to from an informal channel, this popular, one of the popular bloggers that invited the man, and I heard the man saying that's Mr. Adeniyi himself, that he has never met Mr. Gbajabiamila in person, that truly has never seen him, that most of the discussions that he had with Gbajabiamila usually through this, the late Mr. Tanimala, who was actually, I think, the contact person between himself and Mr. Gbaja. And, trying to be able to shed a little bit more light before, perhaps he mentioned the word that, okay, the case is in court, and we would like to be able to preempt the court, and we need to be able to see. But I think with the cry now, maybe the president should also consider an independent panel of inquiry. I think I too will be leaning to that. But they said they cannot be a judge in your own case. And given maybe ICPC, the level of trust deficit that we have in the system, maybe an independent panel of inquiry would be better to be able to clear the names and clear the people that are actually involved. But at the same time, will it not actually be apprehenting the court, given the fact that the court case is coming up on the 27th of July this month, and then setting up that So most of all these, and that could constitute an act of contempt of the court. Maybe the lawyers would help us to be able to, distill more around that particular discussion. So I know it's still a matter of debate and developing story is unfolding, and a lot of people are actually be able to jump on it. And I think I'll also be able to lend a voice with you to police welfare. The debate is always raging on, especially for ex-policemen. Reject pencoms, we say pension reforms anyway, and it appears that the pension, if I one of our top stories, I'm sure that you took that as well, was premium pensions and trust pensions yesterday, merging one of the first powerful, and these are firms that actually control close about 3 billion of asset under management, total asset that they will likely be controlling. So there's a lot of reforms going on there, but most of the ex-policemen who would have under the old pension scheme, the stress and the challenges they went through could actually be able to send a lot of signals, a lot of shivers down their spine that this may also not be trusted if it's also coming from the government.
Fantastic. Real quick, let's see what we have on the cartoon of the day for the Business Day paper right here this morning. The cartoon of the day is always striking. Now we see a Nigerian on bended knees and in anguish. Obviously you can see anguish, and you can see him putting on a green shirt. Written on it is Nigerian. Then you see arrows of corruption being
fired from both sides.
Yeah, fired at this Nigerian who is on bended knees. Corruption. Even the arrows even fired at the so-called democracy, which is supposed to be the field for the Nigerian. Such a very brilliant representation of the plain situation right now. Democracy is supposed to be our shield, but unfortunately, democracy is also being fired at, and the Nigerian is in pain, is in anguish, is in poverty. Nigerian is bleeding. Oh, I hope that there will be one day, as a news anchor, it's a bit exhausting to see these things every day. We've seen it for years, and it just happens to nothing seems to be changing. But I do hope that sometime in this lifetime, or maybe in my children's lifetime, there will be a change. Thank you so much, Mohammed Akonji, for joining us this morning on the newspaper review here on Business Morning Live. That's where we'll leave it today. We have Business Morning Live coming up next. Do stay with us.
Nigeria records an estimated 269,109 prevalent cancer cases over a 5-year period, with breast cancer accounting for more than 38% of all female cancer diagnoses, and prostate cancer making up 30% of male cancer cases. Your health is your greatest asset, and that's why Business Day Television invites you to our monthly health webinar, where we bring vital health conversations closer to you. Join us Thursday, 9th July, as seasoned medical experts discuss the cancer conversation, prevention, early detection, breast and prostate health. Gain practical insights, ask your questions, and learn how early action can save lives. Because every life matters, every health conversation counts. Scan the QR code to register and be part of the conversation right here on Business Day Television.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
Business Day is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information. delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications. From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision-makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, BusinessDay fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. BusinessDay is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, BusinessDay is your guide.
For 25 years, BusinessDay has delivered credible journalism, intelligent analysis, and decision-shaping insights to Nigeria and Africa's business community. Introducing Africa's first AI-integrated website, enhanced with powerful new capabilities. At the heart of the new platform is the AI-enabled chatbot, built to help you navigate stories faster, ask questions, get summaries, and access deeper context instantly. Text-to-speech functionality, allowing you to listen to articles on the go.
The Murtala Muhammad International Airport, Lagos, has recorded an 11.8% growth in air traffic.
Whether you're commuting, driving, or multitasking, BusinessDay now moves with you. And with our new language translation feature, our journalism becomes even more accessible. You can select your preferred language, thereby expanding reach across diverse audiences in Nigeria, Africa, and beyond. This innovation reinforces our commitment to being not just a news platform, but also a smart, accessible, and future-ready business intelligence hub. As we celebrate 25 years of impact, we step confidently into the future, powered by technology, driven by credibility, and focused on you. Visit the new BusinessDay website today and experience the future of news.
Attention business leaders. Want to make informed decisions? Join the ranks of the best with Premium BusinessDay. Access in-depth analysis and expert opinions to stay ahead. Subscribe now at premium.businessday.ng and unlock premium content. Plus, you get 50% off your first subscription. Don't miss out. Make smarter choices and seize new opportunities. Sign up now and elevate your business game. Visit premium.businessday.ng today.
Nigeria records an estimated 269,109 prevalent cancer cases over a 5-year period, with breast cancer accounting for more than 38% of all female cancer diagnoses, and prostate cancer making up 30% of male cancer cases. Your health is your greatest asset, and that's why BusinessDay Television invites you to our monthly health webinar, where we bring vital health conversations closer to you. Join us Thursday, 9th July, as seasoned medical experts Discuss the cancer conversation, prevention, early detection, breast and prostate health. Gain practical insights, ask your questions, and learn how early action can save lives. Because every life matters, every health conversation counts. Scan the QR code to register and be part of the conversation right here on Business Day Television. Welcome back to the Business Morning Live Show right here on Business Day Television. I am Deborah Eze. Now let's move to our topics of conversation this morning. Our first conversation, AI, digital payments and financial inclusion. And the question is Nigeria ready for the next tech economy? Artificial intelligence is reshaping industries around the world, while digital payments continue to transform how businesses operate and how people access financial services. But as Nigeria attracts growing investment in AI infrastructure and expands its digital economy, an important question remains. Is the country truly prepared to harness these opportunities and turn them into sustainable economic growth? And joining us this morning is Okewo Aderemi, is a senior full-stack software engineer and platform integration specialist with more than a decade of experience building digital payment and financial inclusion system across Africa, North America, and Europe. Good morning, Aderemi. It's good to have you on the show.
Good morning. It's good to be here too.
All right, let's go straight into it. Very interesting conversation here. And I must say that Nigeria is actually witnessing a significant investment in AI because everywhere you look, AI, AI, AI. So talk to us about the practical opportunities that this, create for Nigerian businesses and the software developers.
So thank you very much for that. So one of the opportunities that this creates is because if you look at things that are going on, most businesses tend to invest in foreign companies. So if you look at the likes of MTN and Airtel, there's been a recent investment in AI infrastructures. Now, this brings opportunities on two planes, to the developers and to the business people. So I'm just going to talk about for the business people. Now, if you look at the CBN regulation, there's been a recent regulation that there needs to be some form of data residency. So meaning that data cannot go across the shores. Now, this gives good opportunities for business to also match the currency. So if you look at the cost of you would take to host your data abroad, it's much more cheaper if you have it here. Then you can build some form of ecosystem around AI infrastructures. Right. Now, another opportunity it also brings to developers is that it also brings opportunities in terms of applied skills like machine learning, the AI training, the ML ops. And it's not just enough that we have AI infrastructures. It also brings the opportunities of investing in developers for applied skills. So I think it's a great development. The fact that we're having Nigerian companies having to invest, this will lower the cost of building AI products in our economy.
Right. While I was reading your bio, very interesting bio, by the way.
Thank you.
I saw that you've actually reached over 1 million Nigerians with your financial inclusion technology. All right. So looking back, what were the biggest challenges in bringing this digital financial service to understand the community? What was the challenges?
Okay. So first of all, during the time where we worked on the international financial technologies, that was my time in InterSwitch. And one of the challenges we had was that if you look at most of fintech products, they tend to attack most of the urban areas, right? But you have a lot of unbanked. If you take out Lagos and Abuja, you find out that there are certain communities that don't have access to financial services. So the initiative was how do you target the unbanked? And one of the ways to do it was infrastructure. Now, in the rural areas, you have issues with, you have to build for network, you have to build for internet, you have to build for downtimes. So you have to also factor in for USSD. Another factor was trust, right? Because these are rural people that are coming from this background. They don't have this kind of information and knowledge about financial products or to trust it, and because of charges. So there is the element of having human trust, like having a form of agency banking. So you install an agent that is able to transact to these people. Then another challenge that comes with the unbanked is the identity. Now, for most of these banks, they have your information, your KYC, but how do you onboard people that don't that kind of information that you need. Luckily, with government interventions like the NIN and KYC, this has made identity easy. So the first step has been the access. The second step is now going to be using the identity and information to promote more things like credits and such.
So what has changed from all of these challenges? What has changed today?
I would say what has changed today is that we have much more human networks now, because if you look at the likes of InterSwitch and MoneyPoint, you can have in a rural area now POS, USSD. You can have agents installed in places where people don't have access to smartphones, so they can still transact. So technology is still playing that role, but there still needs to be the points where technology is matched with human networking.
Right.
Yes.
I was going to go there now, because despite the growth of, fintech, many Nigerians are still very left behind when it comes to being financially included rather. So what do you think is still preventing this wider inclusion? And what role do you think fintech, technology is playing in having to close this gap?
So I'd say the role fintech can play to close this gap is to have a kind of design that attacks cost and usability.
Right.
Because in rural areas, you have a lot of people that have large distrust for banks because they feel like if the money is there, they can't either have access to it or because of charge fees. So some of them would still like to go with the likes of Esusu. All right, so there has to be some form of, I won't say there has to be like an adjustment for them, but there has to be some form of incentive that would make it easier to bank with the unbanked, right? But so far, I would say in terms of network access, we have much more network access in rural areas. We have much more affordable phones now. So I would say technology is still playing a role, but it still brings us to the point of agency banking, whereby we have to install a lot of human elements in order to not only gain their trust, but give them this proximity to financial services so that they can transact.
So many business owners actually are excited about AI. I think everyone's excited about AI, but let's look at the business owners. But they don't actually know where to begin. Now, how do you think we can get affordable ways for these Nigerian SMEs to actually start using AI, or for them to actually even learn where to even start to apply it to their businesses?
So the first step is there needs to be some form of desensitization, right? Let people understand what AI is, not to see it as a threat. Then now for business owners, you also have to identify like what is the bottleneck in your company? Do you have a process do you have a kind of process that can be automated? And also, do you have something that costs you time? And I'll give you an example. Let's say you're dispatch for food. Let's say like for the food, you can have AI handle things like customer service. So you have a form of WhatsApp integration where it handles orders automatically. Then you could also use it to analyze receipts. You could also use it to, for instance, you're a company and you don't have budget for marketing. There are a lot of tools like Claude Design that allows you to do promotional content and all. But at the end of the day, even if you're a small company that you're trying to adopt AI, you still need to put an human element, especially if you have to deal with people's money and sensitive data. There still needs to be a human in the loop.
All right, you've worked across the United States, Europe, and also here in Nigeria. How would you compare the technology ecosystem from there? Do you think we're close to it, or do you think we have a long way to go?
Honestly, I believe we are close to it, and I'll give you a reason. When it comes to the talent, I believe we have the talent because there are a lot of Nigerian colleagues that I've worked with in both some are in InterSwitch now still, some are in MoneyPoint, some are like Warner Bros. I would say the difference is like the intervention of government, because in foreign markets you have a lot of back investments, investors. You have a lot of infrastructures that are, for instance, now having data centers is not cheap.
Right.
I think the likes of Amazon and the rest, it requires a lot of cooling systems. So we need that kind of environment that enables it. Then we also need stable regulatory policies, because as a Nigerian founder, nobody wants to start a startup tomorrow and find out that a regulation puts you out of business. So in terms of skills and quality, I believe we are there. We just need a lot more investment in infrastructure. We need a lot more in talent development, and we also need governments to champion some policies to make it easier for our talents here to compete.
Speaking about talent development, I'm very sure I've seen more software developers than doctors in my life.
Actually,
yeah. So because we produce thousands every year, and they fail to actually like secure a job. So do you think this is a talent gap, or what exactly do you think makes this happen?
I feel this point is going to get me in trouble because it kind of mirrors what the Money Point CEO said. So this is what I think is a problem. We do have a lot of software engineers, but we have a lot of skill gap consistency. So what do I mean? We have engineers that didn't go through maybe like computer science curriculum. They learned on their own through boot camp and this. But the problem is that, let's take the fintech industry, for example. There are certain type of experiences you can only gain with dealing with specific problems, right?
True.
So if you're dealing with bootcamp, tutorials and everything, you're not going to have experience with working it. Because there was a point in my career where I had the opportunity of working for Andela and InterSwitch, and I decided to go for InterSwitch because I know that the type of problems I'm going to be dealing with are problems that will make you a specialist. So what we need people to do is that they should have some form of portfolio. They should work with technologies that are in demand. Because if you look at the ecosystem, we have a lot of AI adoption. So you need to mirror yourself there, and not just, you need to ensure that you have, certifications these days only go so far. You need to have like open source contribution, and you need to have your evidence put in the public.
Right. You are actually the founder of Britannic Consults, and you're also the successful global freelancer. Now, still speaking on the talent, those who want to like pursue a career, international career, whilst remaining in Nigeria, what advice do you have for them?
Good question. So for the first advice I'm going to say is you need to specialize. You can't just say I'm a full stack engineer. You need to have some form of specialty. So you need to have some form of specialty. Now, if you're in Nigeria, it would make sense for you to be a fintech person that works with payment integration. That could easily get you in the door through companies like Paystack, InterSwitch, and the rest. Then you also need to have a lot of software engineers these days tend to work in isolation. They tend to believe this mindset of that for you to be intelligent, you need to be in isolation, you need to be recluse, you need to be out there in the public, you need to grow your profile. And also another thing that makes you able to compete in the global space while being in Nigeria is you need to invest heavily in your infrastructure. No foreign client wants to hear that NEPA took light so you couldn't do their work. Then also you need to take your professional career as a business and not just a hustle. So meaning you have to set up yourself as a company. There are certain incentives that allows you to open companies in other countries so that you can have access to bank accounts.
I like how we touched the business and then the people in there. And the point about isolation, I must say you're actually very right, because most of the software developers that I know, front end, back end, they're always very isolated. I think it's a thing. Anyway, let's go back to business, digital payments now. We've seen it transformed, especially commerce business over the years. So what major innovation do you think the consumers, businesses should expect over the next 5 years?
Okay, so first of all, I don't want to not but what I would say is that we would expect payments to, like the traditional form of payments, we expect it to disappear. We're going to see payments happen either in the background or such, so you could see the likes of contactless, or you could see payments happen through AI agents, or we have to give some agents some type of permission. Then we're also going to see AI in the mix of payment, because one thing about payment is there needs to be AML, that's anti-money laundering, there needs to be fraudulent checks. So I believe that's going to happen in the future, because the reason why we also need to have a lot of AI too is in terms of credit loans. There's a current company by Sadijolo, Lensware, and that's what they are trying to do, so that if you want to take a loan, there'll be an AI that will analyze what you're going through. Then the third is open banking. So this, I'm not so an expert on it, but I'm familiar with it. So this gives customers the power to determine what type of information is exposed, so that data can go everywhere. But the way I see payments used, payments going to be used outside the traditional form of contact. So probably like, maybe it's just that it's not popular like that in Nigeria. Maybe video games or e-commerce or digital experiences or virtual reality. I feel like payments going to touch on environments that are beyond traditional.
So how do you think Nigeria can actually go away from just being a consumer of AI, but a global producer and innovator when it comes to AI?
I think the first step is being championed already by MTN and Airtel, because currently Airtel has the extra AI infrastructure, and MTN currently has theirs too.
Right.
So I believe that with having AI infrastructures, what is going to happen is that it's going to allow local GPU, local models to be trained. So this would encourage people that want to have some form of trainings on a cheap, I mean, on Naira, paying in Naira, right? But also at the same time too, we also have to look at government intervention. There has to be companies too that would set up some form of initiative that will encourage people, because even if you have most of these AI infrastructures and products, you still need entrepreneurs, you still need companies, you still need specialists, engineers that will take advantage of that. And for engineers to take advantage of that, there needs to be some form of talent development carried out. So I would say fintech industry and government needs to be involved in the curriculum to train up people to take advantage of this, and government adopting some form of AI policies, maybe like analyzing bills. That's just me giving my own personal opinion. Analyzing bills, but there has to be government support. Then lastly, infrastructure.
Yeah. Any last word when it comes to this conversation that we actually had today?
I would say people should learn to embrace AI, because regardless of whether you want it or not, it's here to stay. So, and I believe that, having adoption of AI would empower you more, because there's a lot you get to do. Because even as a software engineer, I've seen the impact of AI in my career, and I can't deny it. Then I also believe that the government should also take a look at the opportunities that we can. And I also believe that by supporting, most of our data centers that we have in Nigeria, we can retain most of those revenue in our country, grow our economy.
Thank you very much, Adiremi. It's really good to have you on Business Money Live.
Thank you very much.
All right, we were speaking to Okewo Adiremi. He's a senior full-stack software engineer and a platform integration specialist. Still to come after the break, FG borrowing and rising bond yields. Do stay with us. Nigeria records an estimated 269,109 prevalent cancer cases over a 5-year period, with breast cancer accounting for more than 38% of all female cancer diagnoses, and prostate cancer making up 30% of male cancer cases. Your health is your greatest asset, and that's why Business Day Television invites you to our monthly health webinar, where we bring vital health conversations closer to you. Join us Thursday, 9th July, as seasoned medical experts discuss the cancer conversation, prevention, early detection, breast and prostate health. Gain practical insights, ask your questions, and learn how early action can save lives. Because every life matters, every health conversation counts. Scan the QR code to register and be part of the conversation right here on Business Day Television.
At Providus Bank, we're committed to your growth and success. You're never alone on the journey. Our personalized relationship banking is how we do things together. It's what sets us apart. We value every individual and partnership and treat them as such. We're committed to helping you grow and celebrating your success. This is your life story, your future, your forward. This is all about you. Let's move you forward. Providus Bank.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of Business Day. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with Business Day.
Business Day is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production. Business Day has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. At Business Day, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications. From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision-makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, Business Day fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. Business Day is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, Business Day is...
As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809-645-3535 or Shegun on 0812-024-3167 or Daniel on 0802-756-4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business. As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Balata.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
For 25 years, Business Day has delivered credible journalism, intelligent analysis, and decision-shaping insights to Nigeria and Africa's business community. Introducing Africa's first AI-integrated website, enhanced with powerful new capabilities. At the heart of the new platform is the AI-enabled chatbot, built to help you navigate stories faster ask questions, get summaries, and access deeper context instantly. Text-to-speech functionality, allowing you to listen to articles on the go.
The Murtala Muhammad International Airport, Lagos, has recorded an 11.8% growth in air traffic.
Whether you're commuting, driving, or multitasking, BusinessDay now moves with you. And with our new language translation feature, our journalism becomes even more accessible. You can select your preferred language, thereby expanding reach across diverse audiences in Nigeria, Africa, and beyond. This innovation reinforces our commitment to being not just a news platform, but also a smart, accessible, and future-ready business intelligence hub. As we celebrate 25 years of impact, we step confidently into the future, powered by technology, driven by credibility, and focused on you. Visit the new BusinessDay website today and experience the future of news.
Welcome back. You're still watching Business Morning Live. Let's now move to our second conversation this morning. Nigeria's borrowing appetite is once again in focus as the federal government ramps up domestic debt issuance to finance its budget and refinance maturing obligation. Investors are demanding higher returns, pushing bond yield upward, while higher yields may attract investment into government securities. They also raise borrowing costs, influence lending rates across the economy, and could crowd out private sector access to credit. So what does this mean for investors, businesses, and the broader economy? Joining us to unpack the implication is our guest, Samuel Oyekomi, is the Chief Research Officer at Norumbeja Financial Group. Good morning, Samuel. It's good to have you on Business Morning Live.
Yeah, thanks. Good morning.
All right, the federal government's aggressive borrowing has coincided with rising bond yields. What is driving this relationship? And do you think Nigerians see higher yields as a sign of investor confidence or growing fiscal risk?
Yeah, I think there are several factors driving the rise in the bond yields, and of course, it is very important to understand that. Of course, higher yields does not necessarily translate to sign of either confidence or distress, as you have put it. But then we need to understand that there is a huge budget deficit for 2026, same as we have in 2025, which was somewhere around 13 trillion as of then. And so having that kind of deficit means that government needs to borrow as much as possible. And then if you look at the Q3, the borrowing plan for both treasury bills and bonds, you'll see that the government is hoping to get about over 5 trillion naira from the market. And liquidity also in the financial system has been quite positive, somewhere in the region of 3 to 5 trillion naira. By the time you look at all those fundamentals together, it helps you to understand that there's a lot of idle cash in the system that needs to be absorbed, while the government also needs a lot of funds also to support their budget plan. Also, secondly, the CPN had maintained a relatively tight monetary policy. We've only seen about 500 bips cuts in the last 1 year. I'm calling at 26.5. So, of course, when you have high MPR, it of course impacts every other fixed income yield, likes of T-bills and bonds. Then lastly, you also want to consider the fact that high inflationary pressure in the economy also means that investors will now start pricing those high inflation into the expected returns that they get from those fixed income instruments, of course. And so again, when you look at this combination of factors together, you understand that yes, yields. Yeah.
Samuel, do we still have you? All right, moving on from that, do you think the government is borrowing because it has like a strategic financing need, or does it point to a deeper structural weakness in the revenue generation and fiscal management?
I think it's a function of both, right? Yes, strategic financing needs in the sense that government needs to meet, of course, their financing needs in terms of their budget. So there's a need to borrow. And you see many of those borrowings, especially the ones that has to do with multilaterals, there are concessions directly targeted at meeting some, right, which I is quite good. But on the flip side, also, there are also structural weaknesses in terms of revenue generation. Before now, we've had significant dwindling revenue or inability to meet our targets when it comes to generating revenue from the fiscal side. I think the new tax reform is aimed at also tackling that in a bit, and maybe that gets better. But again, like you said, it's a combination of both strategic financing needs and, of course, the inability to generate as much revenue as needed to finance the government.
Right. We know that higher bond yields often make government securities more attractive than private investment. So are we beginning to see evidence of the private sector being crowded out of access to affordable capital?
Yeah, yes, to a large extent, I think so. Because then again, when you look at numbers in recent time, you see that corporates are not even are able to get as much borrowing in the capital market as they used to. They have reduced their exposure to borrowing in the capital market, and even when they do that short term through commercial papers, and that's as a result of the high interest rate environment that we've experienced over time. So when government is giving high yields for risk-free instruments like T-bills and bonds, so naturally banks would prefer to go for those less risky assets and giving it to corporates, which again could mean loans going bad. And there are also some prudential limits that banks also need to maintain. So yes, I think there are signs of that. And at the end of the day, it's just important to understand risk return mechanism and also to ensure that even you who is going to the market look at the real returns eventually.
So with treasury bills and bonds now offering increasingly attractive returns, how do you think institutional and retail investors should position their portfolio, and what risks should they be watching out for?
Of course, interesting times calls for interesting measures. I think we cannot overflow the part that portfolio diversification plays in investment. So it's very important that however you are positioning in terms of investing, there's a need to diversify. Because when you look at fixed income yields alone, at the end of the day, you might be shooting yourself in the leg in several points. So someone who is in the investment space also understand that there is the reinvestment risk, where if you go short because yields are higher at the short end of the curve, but of course things could change and interest rate could slow down. In the next 1 year, interest rate falls sharply. So again, if you don't and then it becomes hard for you to come back to get those relative levels that you have gotten earlier. Also, you also look at other forms of investment, things around stock, for example, still giving returns significantly higher than what you would get in the fixed income market. Yes, it comes with its risk, but there's a need to balance that, right? The higher the risk, the higher the expected returns. The lower the risk, the lower the expected returns. So it is very, very important that you diversify your portfolio, but also having in mind things around inflation rates, exchange rate movement, monetary policy decisions, as well as fiscal development. Also, they help in shaping how you pick and choose your investments in your portfolio.
We know that rising sovereign borrowing costs inevitably feeds into the wider economy, right? So how much pressure could this place on commercial lending rates, business expansion, and also job creation?
I think that's quite direct. When you have sovereign yields high, of course, banks, like I mentioned, naturally move towards those kind of safe haven investments rather than invest in or give credit to businesses. And of course, what that does is that also impacts the ability of the real sector to get access to relatively cheap credits, which can help in their business expansion, job creation, and whatnot. But unfortunately, these are like some of the measures, right? When you have high inflation rates, monetary policy naturally is to increase interest rates, which again is meant to curb the demand side. And unfortunately, what happens is that on the side of economic expansion, you start seeing things getting a bit tighter. So yeah, it impacts how much commercial banks can give loans to real businesses, how much businesses can also expand, as well as how they're also able to create additional jobs in the economy. It is a very intricate relationship, and unfortunately, that's how it works.
Right. Nigeria's debt profile, remains within some international benchmarks, but debt servicing continues to consume a significant share of government revenue. So at what point does borrowing become unsustainable, even if the debt to GDP ratio appear manageable?
Yeah, so I've seen many times where various analysts come online and then talk about debt sustainability, especially from a debt to GDP ratio. Some speak for and some speak against. While some say we're having to borrow more and all that, I think for me, I have no problem with borrowing more. I don't think Nigeria has a debt problem. I think it is more on the revenue side and also fiscal discipline. Those are my own issues. So when you want to assess Nigeria's debt sustainability and whatnot, I'd rather look at things around debt servicing to revenue ratio. Over the years, we've seen debt servicing cop a huge part of our revenue. And then again, when you look at where most of these new borrowings or even revenue are spent on, you see that most of them are either in recurrent areas or things around debt service. And at the end of the day, what it means is that you cannot actually use what you earn from revenue to drive economic growth through infrastructure and whatnot. So you have different international benchmark around how much should be allocated to education, to healthcare, infrastructure, and social investment. But you cannot have that if you have to continually use a huge part of that money or that you raise as revenue to service debt. So where my worry lies is around how we spend the revenue that we get. So my problem is not how much we are owing, it is more of are we comfortable in servicing these loans without having to sacrifice development? And I think that's something that every Nigerian should watch out for, which is a sign of a weak fiscal environment. I think the tax reform helps to solve that. Hopefully, if we're able to increase the tax bracket and also significantly raise government revenue to the point that we are not relying so much on crude oil exports, then I think we will get there.
So Samuel, tell us, how does the central bank balance its inflation fighting mandate with a fiscal environment where the government borrowing is putting upward pressure on interest rate?
I think that's an interesting and probably one of the biggest policy dilemma you find in this part of the world. The CBN's mandate is primarily price stability. But again, on the fiscal side, they also have their own mandate, right? When inflation increases, the CBN's mandate is, of course, to increase interest rates in a bid to reduce demand. And what that does is also it impacts the ability of businesses to drive economic value. So there is that very opposite direction in terms of movement. But what is important, I think, for Nigeria is to have an alignment between both the fiscal authority and then the monetary policy. I think there was something that was designed a couple of months ago, if not 1 year or so, where the CBN and the Ministry of Finance had like a handshake around how their policy was going to move around. I think they also set the inflation targeting also, and then they had something called like an MGAS or DGAS, yes, which is around disinflation, pretty much reducing inflation to single digit and also driving economic growth to about 7% per year. I think having that handshake is quite important to ensure that when the CBN is making a monetary policy direction or an initiative, it is not counteracted by decision also from the fiscal side, so that fiscal discipline complements monetary policy. And I think that's how we get a very well-rounded growth in the Nigerian economy.
Well said, Samuel. Foreign portfolio investors, they often view higher yield as an opportunity. Now, could rising bond yields strengthen foreign inflows and support the naira, will there be concerns about fiscal sustainability that would outweigh the attractive return?
So from a foreign portfolio point of view, right, they look at three things. One of them is the yield, of course. The another one is how stable is the exchange rate. And then the third one is the ability for them to repatriate their capital when time comes. I think from an exchange rate stability, at least going by data in the last 2 years, we could say that that has been relatively curbed. The level of volatility in the exchange rate market has been very, very minimal. Also, the ability for FPIs to be able to get away their capital when they want to. I think that has also been solved, of course, with the improved liquidity that we've seen in the FX market. The other part is the yield. And from a Nigerian point of view, where interest rates are higher, and then in other developed economies like the US, Europe, and others, where interest rates are slowing down, it presents Nigeria as an attractive place for inflows. And I think we've seen that a lot. Just open market operations, automobiles that have been auctioned in the last 1 year, you see a huge part of that being foreign portfolio investments. Yes, in the stock market, there's been not so much improvement in terms of FPI's inflows this year. But when you look at those numbers last year, you see that we now have a lot more foreign portfolio investors willing to come into the Nigerian equity market. So I think, yes, a combination of these three factors, yield also being one of those factors that helps to attract foreign portfolio investors, which eventually helps to support the Naira, increase foreign exchange reserves. Our FX reserve is somewhere around 51 billion, and that's as a result of the accretion of FX that we've been able to attract in the last few years.
So beyond borrowing more, I know you don't have an issue with Nigeria borrowing, but speak to us about more practical measures that the government should prioritize to reduce its financial need. Do you think we should prioritize tax reform, the expenditure rationalization, asset sales, or, what can they do to actually accelerate economic growth away from borrowing?
I think the solution for Nigeria is not a single measure. I think it's a combination, and I think most people would agree. And many of the things you mentioned around tax reforms, expenditure rationalization, sale of assets, I think they form a portfolio of actions that can help us to achieve improved fiscal environment. I think one of the things is to broaden the tax base rather than just increasing tax rates. I think the tax reform had helped to do that. Also to improve tax administration. I think that was also done. A huge part of that equation also is to reduce wasteful expenditure. Where do we spend? So far right now, the latest information we have around budget implementation is the one for Q3 2025. And many of the information can be vague sometimes. So you have questions being raised by different parties. I think in recent time, the IMF also raised a part that about 2% of GDP was also missing in terms of how it was recorded. So there's always that issue around how we spend and what we spend. So I think it's quite important that we reduce wasteful expenditure and also ensure that there's transparency in that process. Another thing that we can also consider is the fact that, and I think we're already seeing some of them, but a lot more needs to be done in terms of driving private-public or public-private partnerships towards infrastructural development. I think we need to see a whole lot more. And the reason why private guys have not been able to do this as much is because also the trust in terms of from the government side, how they are able to ensure continuity, because when there's a change in government, it could also be a problem for the private sector that had crowded out the fund. So again, it can be hard for them to get back their fund. So I think government continuity and a way for government to ensure that the public really trusts them when they come together for this kind of partnership. And I think, like you said, asset sale is quite important too. If you have government assets that are underutilized or not being utilized at all, I don't see a reason why you keep them wasting value over time. So I think it's important that we can commercialize them, right? I think private sector might be able to do a better job. And then lastly, supporting those sectors that is able to generate exports and employment for the economy. I think that will go a long way in driving the overall economic growth that you spoke about. I think your word was accelerating economic growth. So yes, I agree with that.
Right. So looking ahead to the second half of the year, what should investors, businesses, and also policymakers be watching most closely in the Nigeria bond market? And what signals will suggest that the country's debt trajectory is improving or becoming more concerning?
So I think there are a number of things or variables that investors, businesses, analysts like myself would probably look out for during this period. I think one of them is inflation, and it's a no-brainer, right? Inflation tends to also drive monetary policy decision. So it is important to look at these two factors, inflation and monetary policy decision. They impact what yields are when it comes to the fixed income market. Thirdly, also, we want to consider things around government revenue performance. Where are we raising these funds from, and how are we able to generate as much? I mentioned the fact that tax reform could help us improve our fiscal environment in terms of revenue generation. What does our non-oil revenue now look like compared to oil revenue? And also, what are foreign portfolio investors, or what are foreign investors talking about when it comes to the Nigerian market, right? Are we seeing a lot more FPIs in the country? How stable is our exchange rate environment? Those can also help to understand the level of demand for government securities. Like I mentioned, debt service to revenue ratio, I think is quite important that we take a cue at this. I think generally when you can combine, I think I mentioned about 5 or 6 variables, it can give you a sense or an indication of if things are going well or if things are going bad, and can help you make your decision in fixed income markets.
Thank you for sharing your insights this morning, Samuel. It was really a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right, we'll be speaking to Samuel Oyekomi. He's the Chief Research Officer at Norumberger Financial Group. And that's been our focus today on Business Morning. We looked at AI, digital payments, and financial inclusion. Is Nigeria ready for the next tech economy? And also FG borrowing and rising bond yields. The Business Morning live show continues with Elizabeth Musa after this break. Just stay tuned.
Of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications. From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision-makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, BusinessDay fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. BusinessDay is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, Business Day is your guide.
Nigeria records an estimated 269,109 prevalent cancer cases over a 5-year period, with breast cancer accounting for more than 38% of all female cancer diagnoses, and prostate cancer making up 30% of male cancer cases. Your health is your greatest asset, and that's why Business Day Television invites you to our monthly health webinar, where we bring vital health conversations closer to you. Join us Thursday, 9th July, as seasoned medical experts discuss the cancer conversation, prevention, early detection, breast and prostate health. Gain practical insights, ask your questions, and learn how early action can save lives. Because every life matters, every health conversation counts. Scan the QR code to register and be part of the conversation right here on Business Day Television.
As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809-645-3535 or Shegun on 0812-024-3167 or Daniel on 0802-756-4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business. As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809-645-3535 or Shegun on 0812-024-3167 or Daniel on 0802-756-4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business.
For 25 years, Business Day has delivered credible journalism, intelligent analysis, and decision-shaping insights to Nigeria and Africa's business community. Introducing Africa's first AI-integrated website, enhanced with powerful new capabilities. At the heart of the new platform is the AI-enabled chatbot, built to help you navigate stories faster, ask questions, get summaries, and access deeper context instantly. Text-to-speech functionality, allowing you to listen to articles on the go.
The Murtala Muhammad International Airport, Lagos, has recorded an 11.8% growth in air traffic.
Whether you're commuting, driving, or multitasking, Business Day now moves with you. And with our new language translation feature, our journalism becomes even more accessible. You can select your preferred language, thereby expanding reach across diverse audiences in Nigeria, Africa, and beyond. This innovation reinforces our commitment to being not just a news platform, but also a smart, accessible, and future-ready business intelligence hub. As we celebrate 25 years of impact, we step confidently into the future, powered by technology, driven by credibility, and focused on you. Visit the new Business Day website today and experience the future of news.
I am, of course, a great admirer of the impeccable credibility, professionalism, and business savviness of BusinessDay. If you really mean business in Nigeria, start your day with BusinessDay.
BusinessDay is West Africa's leading provider of business intelligence and information, delivering premium content across diversified media platforms, including online, mobile, and print. Since its inception in 2001 with a weekly newspaper production, BusinessDay has expanded its reach to provide exclusive content accessible through print, mobile, and online channels. At BusinessDay, our mission is clear: to be the foremost provider of business and financial content, empowering readers to make informed decisions in Nigeria and Africa. Since our establishment, we have been committed to delivering insightful, relevant, and accurate information about Nigeria's business and finance environment, while contextualizing the impact of global events. We monitor the stock market, analyze the companies driving it, and report on government policies and their economic implications. From decoding market trends to dissecting economic shifts, we offer actionable investment ideas and serve as a compass for decision makers navigating complexity. Beyond headlines, BusinessDay fosters discussions on critical economic issues through impactful conferences and events. These platforms bring industry leaders together to share narratives that drive innovation and spark meaningful dialogues. Our events galvanize connections, bridging the gap between inspiration and achievement. For businesses seeking visibility, our strong digital presence offers unparalleled opportunities, with millions of followers across social media and a dynamic website attracting visitors from within and outside Nigeria. BusinessDay is the ideal platform to boost visibility for your products and services. If you're looking for in-depth analysis and expert opinions on Nigeria and Africa's business landscape, BusinessDay is your guide.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insights into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine. I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that BusinessDay television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
Good morning and welcome to the big story right here on Business Morning Live. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Nigeria's Senate is taking a major step in the fight against fake medicines, advancing a bill that proposes up to 15 years imprisonment for those involved in the production, distribution and sale of counterfeit drugs and other unsafe regulated products. Supporters say tougher penalties are needed to protect lives and restore confidence in the country's healthcare system, but with fake drugs still widespread despite existing laws, the bigger question is, will severe punishment make the enforcement, or is enforcement the real problem? To unpack what this could mean for public health, justice and enforcement, we're joined by Damian Ajayi, who's a public affairs analyst and is also a lawyer. Thank you so much for joining the show, Damian.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let me start by talking about the Senate, which obviously believes that harsher punishment will deter counterfeit drug dealers. From a legal standpoint, do you think that tougher sentences actually reduce crime?
Well, tougher sentences by the literature do not reduce crime. However, deterrence theory, which typically states that if the tougher, stricter punishment, it deters people from crime. But however, you should distinguish between certainty of being caught and the severity of the punishment. But generally, tougher sentences do not deter people from committing a crime. For example, you have where death penalties are provided for drug offenses, and people still go ahead and commit crime. So you have to look at, you have to look at a lot of issues, socioeconomic issues, poverty, addiction, and other socioeconomic factors if you really want to reduce crime. But generally, tougher punishments do not reduce crime in criminological literature.
Right. Also, we see that the bill actually proposes up to 15 years in prison for offenders. Do you consider that punishment proportionate to the damage caused by these fake medicines?
I mean, we must be clear. Fake medicines, fake drugs, and all some processed foods are really, really dangerous, to the society, particularly to our health, in general. I mean, in the case of Nigeria, you're talking about over 50% of fake medicine and fake drugs and also processed foods in the society. If we look at that danger, then I don't think 15 years is too small or is small compared to, the danger that, bedevils us. But beyond that also, beyond the stiffer 15 years punishment, we also have to look at other components, in terms of prevention, in terms of tackling these issues, in terms of weaker institutional framework and all that. But generally, I don't think that it is small compared to the magnanimity of the danger it portends.
Right. And we also see that beyond the manufacturers, the bill also targets medicine hawkers and unauthorized drug sellers. Is this the right approach, or could it unfairly affect vulnerable people who are trying to earn a living right now?
The vulnerable people who are trying to earn a living should do that within the ambits of the law. We are talking about public health here. We are talking about fake drugs. We are talking about fake medicine. We are talking about things that affect the health of individuals. To a large extent, these things contribute to health damage, complicated health issues. So if people make a living out of it, I don't think it's a good practice. So whether they are going to whether it's targeted at them or not, I don't think that's the issue, because they must conduct themselves. They must conduct their businesses. They must conduct their livelihood within the ambits of the law. And in this case, everywhere in the world, fake medicine, adulterated medicine, fake drugs, fake foods, these are felonies. These are top crimes that are condemned, in practical steps all over the world. And I don't think that there should be an excuse for that, all in the name of livelihood and economic survival.
Right, and the legislation also introduces asset forfeiture and compensation for victims. How significant are these provisions in strengthening accountability?
Well, if there are provisions to compensate victims, if there are provisions, for asset forfeiture, these are laudable provisions. But, the critical issue here is accountability. It's about transparency. Is it the same agency that's going to handle the forfeiture, that is going to handle the compensation? What is going to be the process? Because transparency and accountability are essential in implementation. And if we are able to do that, then we can, to a large extent, achieve expected results. So I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. Compensation, I don't think it's a bad idea. Assets, forfeiture, especially for those who are found culpable after, a fair judicial intervention, which obviously is the court. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think beyond asset forfeiture also, it should go into, looking at both the manufacturers, the traffickers, the middlemen, and everybody involved in the chain. And I think to a large extent, we must take this thing seriously if we consider the magnanimity of the situation we have. Because fake medicine, fake drugs, goes to the roots of public health.
And Damian, let's talk about a concern that was raised by a lawmaker. One of such concerns is whether this bill will overlap with the existing NAFDAC Act. Do you think this could create legal or enforcement challenges if it's not properly addressed?
Well, I think that the bill, the proposed bill, which is the counterfeit fake medicine and food and also some processed bill, which is before the House, tends to repeal the 2004 Act. And to a large extent, I believe the NAFDAC Act is an enabling act which oversees the implementation and enforcement of the counterfeit on fake medicine and fake food act, and the Food and Drug Registration Act and the Food and Drug Act. So NAFDAC as a body implements all these acts in a way to ensure that the results are achieved. The NAFDAC Act, for me, does not interfere with these acts. I think what the NAFDAC Act does is to structure an agency in a way that it can go ahead and function in a way to implement the provisions and the prohibitions in this act. So I think NAFDAC Act is an enabling act. But also, if you look at it, you will see that when it comes to production, transportation, sale of fake drugs, and etc., most of these provisions are also in the NAFDAC Act, because if you look at Section 24, functions and powers under the NAFDAC, for functions and powers of NAFDAC under the Act, so you see that they have powers to do these things. But I think what this counterfeit bill is doing is to elaborate on, of course, the punishment by bringing it to 15 years, to also expressly prohibit online sales and advertisements and sale. So I think it's more elaborate than the NAFDAC. But to a large extent, I think the NAFDAC Act is an enabling act that gives NAFDAC the powers to be able to implement the prohibitions and provisions in this proposed bill.
Right, and Damian, Nigeria's had anti-counterfeit laws for years now, but we still see fake drugs remaining widespread. What would you say has been missing? Is it stronger laws or stronger enforcement? Talk to us from a legal perspective.
Obviously, you answered it. It's stronger enforcement. I mean, you can have all the laws if you do not have the enforcement nozzle. Is as good as no law. What we are saying over the years, we are saying porous borders, weak institutional capacity. We are saying corruption. We are saying inefficiency, and a whole lot. Yes, NAFDAC to a large extent should be credited for improving in its administrative processes over the years, but it's not enough. I mean, if you look at NAFDAC as a body, how many presence do they have in all the local governments in Nigeria? You know, if you look at NAFDAC as a body, you see that their roles, the enforcement roles, it interferes with customs, it interferes with the NDLEA and other bodies. So how well are they able, you know, to synergize and work well with this? So the challenges have been more porous borders. NAFDAC has to work with customs, has to work with immigrations. You have weak institutions. So you have all these problems. So it's not the law. It's how NAFDAC can you know, improvise and look for more effective ways in implementing these laws, and ensuring that even within its rounds, it's able to curb, you know, corruption and issues of bribery and extortion and, you know, maladministration and all those things, because these are essentials. You know, when these things are there, then the law enables them to carry out the function. But most importantly, enforcement has to do with strong institutions and effective administrative system.
You said something that struck me. You talked about the porous borders, and that brings me to my next questions, right? Especially because you mentioned porous borders. How important is intelligence gathering, border security and technology in tackling the sophisticated networks behind this counterfeit medicine? Is there a role that technology can play better, or an intelligence?
Well, technology is the new bride in modern administrative procedure. Whether you're talking about, you know, drug offices in the United States or in the UK, they try as much as possible to bring in a lot of technological innovations to curb these things. But then in Nigeria, we have very, very unique and peculiar situation, of course, in which even as rolled out international security, when we talk about porous borders, and I don't think NAFDAC has the capacity, you know, to fix that. So it requires collaboration between Nigerian customs and NAFDAC, the Nigerian police and NAFDAC, the military and NAFDAC, in respect to, you know, border security. If you look at the government, if you look at Section 2 of NAFDAC Act and membership of the Governing Council, I would think that, you know, when you have the Pharmaceutical Association as a member, a statutory member, you should also have, you know, custom as a statutory member. You should also have police as a statutory member, and you should also have the military as a statutory member, so that collaboration and efforts can bring about more robust, you know, results. Because when we talk about imports, when we talk about imports of all these fake drugs and goods, they're coming through the borders, and these are issues the customs have to deal with. So, you know, so they have to work with the customs, they have to work with other, you know, the Port Authority and other, you know, agencies. And when there are loopholes, you know, it's, you know, it has a trickle-down effect on their targets and results. So in essence, NAFDAC as a body as a regulatory body, can apply technology, can apply advanced technology in conjunction with Interpol, in conjunction with the United Nations Organization on Drugs and Crime. And I think there's a NAFDAC scratch, there's a NAFDAC process in respect to drugs, where you have NAFDAC scratch on a drug, and you can scratch it and send a message to that number to confirm the authenticity of the drug. Though it is limited to certain kind of drugs, I think the situation we have today, NAFDAC should consider introducing it to all kinds of drugs in Nigeria. And I think that this issue is serious because from reports, we can say that over 10,000 people die from fake drugs, malaria drugs, essentially, in Nigeria. And if you have over 50% of fake drugs out there in the public, it calls for a national health emergency. In respect to technology, there are a lot of technology that can be devised, in doing so. One of them also is bringing down social media, and is working with social media platforms, working with owners of Facebook and TikTok, and see how you can cut this thing. So technology is very key in the 21st century.
Damian, let's talk about e-commerce. The bill we see also seeks to regulate online sales of medicine. Now, with e-commerce growing rapidly, how realistic is enforcement in this digital space?
Well, enforcement is possible depending on the administrative strategy and processes. I mean, in other climes, in the UK, for instance, they work with eBay, they work with social media platforms, they engage with online users, through the Yellow Card initiative. So when you talk about e-commerce, there are also other provisions in the Cyber Crimes Act, in the Federal Competitive and Consumer Protection Act that prevents unauthorized sale of fake drugs and all these things. So there are ways they can engage social media platforms. They can work with media practitioners and owners of this online technology network and see how they can interface with them. And definitely they can. The processes are there. The skills are there. The technology is there for them to work with, but they have to work in collaborations with social media platform, the NCDA, and other technology-driven societies.
Now, from a public policy perspective, what are some of the additional reforms that should accompany this bill to genuinely protect Nigerians from counterfeit medicines?
Well, for me, for NAFDAC to do more, it must first make an audit of itself, because is the regulator. It must first curb corruption in NAFDAC. NAFDAC itself must be above board in respect to curbing corruption, bribery, extortion, and transparency in its operations. Secondly, it must engage staff from what it is. There seems to be low manpower, because if you look at the enormous tax before NAFDAC, I think NAFDAC should have offices in all the local governments. It should have a synergy whereby it is easier to report crime. It is easier to record crime. It is easier to prosecute crime, so that it's at every regional office and at every state office, the power is there to quickly and effectively act, under the NAFDAC's mandate. So I think corruption, of course, should be curbed. Secondly, manpower, professionalism, manpower, recruitment, professionalism, and of course, funding, because without funding, would they be able to get the technological skills and the equipment required to advance their cause and efficiently prosecute these issues. So I think basically, if they look around that and the administrative processes, they can be better.
And finally, Damian, because we have to go now, if this bill eventually becomes law, what should ordinary Nigerians like myself expect to change? And what role should the consumers actually play in helping authorities tackle these fake drugs?
Yeah, well, the law is as good as its implementation. If the implementation is not effective, the law is as good as no law. So I'm not really expecting much if enforcement and implementations are not be geared in a way to bring about more results. Yes, the law is good. Stiffer punishment is good. The online capacity to chase online defaulter is good. But then I think that the enormous task rest on NAFDAC in ensuring that administrative processes and execution and implementation of this law yields results, and that is how ordinary Nigerians can feel safe, can feel protected, and can be assured that the circulation of fake drugs in the society is reduced. So I think that NAFDAC should work on its implementation and execution, and at the end of the day, it will yield results.
Well, thank you very much, Damian Ajayi, for joining us this morning on Business Morning Live. It's always a delight to speak to you. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
And you too. Thank you for having me.
Well, you've been watching The Big Story right here on Business Morning Live. Up next is Social Listening. Do stay with us.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
For 25 years, Business Day has delivered credible journalism, intelligent analysis, and decision-shaping insights to Nigeria and Africa's business community. Introducing Africa's first AI-integrated website, enhanced with powerful new capabilities. At the heart of the new platform is the AI-enabled chatbot, built to help you navigate stories faster, ask questions, get summaries, and access deeper context instantly. Text-to-speech functionality, allowing you to listen to articles on the go.
The Murtala Muhammad International Airport, Lagos, has recorded an 11.8% growth in air traffic.
Whether you're commuting, driving, or multitasking, BusinessDay now moves with you. And with our new language translation feature, our journalism becomes even more accessible. You can select your preferred language, thereby expanding reach across diverse audiences in Nigeria, Africa, and beyond. This innovation reinforces our commitment to being not just a news platform, but also a smart, accessible, and future-ready business intelligence hub. As we celebrate 25 years of impact, we step confidently into the future, powered by technology, driven by credibility, and focused on you. Visit the new BusinessDay website today and experience the future of news.
Pleasure of welcoming great supporters and friends from INMA. He's the president, and then of course L. Wilkinson, and then Doreen is heading the work in Africa.
Honored that you're hosting us today. We look forward to a positive exchange of ideas and strategies to make our industry better. With me is Al Wilkinson. He's President and Executive Director of International News Media Association. All welcome, guys. And we're happy to have him here. I'll let him tell you guys more about him and why he's here.
I would leave you with the idea about Business Days. No platform can take it. No AI can replicate it. No competitor can buy it. So here's a little advice. Defend it. Build it. Invest in it. Because folks, the decade ahead is going to belong to news organizations that are unmistakably themselves. They're not boring. They're not neutral. Who are you? Answer that question. You'll figure out the next one. Thanks a lot.
If it's sparking conversations, then we're bringing it to your seat. Welcome to the Social Listening segment, where we bring to you the stories, debates, and moments generating conversations across social media. I am Elizabeth Musa. And now let's get into what's making waves online. For the very first conversation today, Central Bank of Nigeria has warned members of the public, businesses and financial institutions against injecting or rejecting the standard 100 naira banknotes, stressing that it remains legal tender and that violators risk enforcement measures under the CBN Act. The clarification followed reports that some individuals and businesses had refused to accept the standard 100 naira note over uncertainties surrounding its legal tender status after introduction of the commemorative 100 naira banknote. The commemorative 100 Naira banknote was introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria in 2014 to mark Nigeria's centenary, which is celebrating 100 years since the country's amalgamation in 1914. It was issued alongside, not as a replacement for the existing standard 100 Naira banknote, and both remain legal tender across the country. Now, we see some of the reactions on social media to this comment this warning by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, there's a comment from Believe. Believe says some people are rejecting the 100 Naira note. It started like this. People started rejecting 5 Naira, 10 Naira, 20 Naira note, and that's why we're no longer in circulation. And the police started rejecting their usual 50 Naira bribe. Now it has gotten to the 100 Naira note. That's from Believe. Believe is sort of giving us a background into all of the notes that have been rejected over time. Awesome. EO Shomowo says it's not the people that is rejecting the note, but the hard economic impact that is forcing the note out of the economy. You hardly see what you can buy with the 50 Naira and 100 Naira notes. Don't even get me started on 5 Naira notes. We have 5 Naira notes still that are still legal tender, but you can't buy anything for 5 Naira. We even have 20 Naira notes. Don't even get me started on we were talking about 50, when we still have 5 Naira notes that maybe they should just wipe out completely, because you can't even get anything for 5 Naira. You can't get anything for 10 Naira. You can't get anything for 20 Naira. You hardly can get anything for 50 Naira. It's crazy, because there was a time when you could take, at least you could take basic bikes from maybe estate gates to somewhere for 50 Naira, but now you can't find a 50 Naira bike. Now you hardly even find 100 Naira. It's mostly like 300 Naira. Isn't that crazy? So I understand when people are a bit worried about getting the notes, because when you don't have any service or product for that amount, and it's as good as useless. But let's see some more reactions to that conversation on social media. Exactly my point. Alex says, what can the 100 Naira note buy? The Naira note is becoming useless. Common biscuits are sold from 200 Naira and above. So what's the use of the 100 Naira note? Exactly my point. The biscuits that we used to buy 5 Naira, 10 Naira, 20 Naira, 50 Naira, at least I think now the least biscuit you will see is 100 Naira. Isn't that crazy? I think even 200. Victor AGK says, who told CBN that Nigeria is not collecting 100 Naira? Is it the 100 Naira that is not in circulation? The reason why transport is cut is because no 100 Naira note. A place where you were supposed to charge 200 Naira, they will charge you 300 because no 100 Naira note to give you. I agree with Victor. It's just crazy how our economy seems to be worsening and worsening by the day. And no matter how we try to sugarcoat it, that's the reality of things on ground. And it's the citizens that are groaning. Because even the Central Bank of Nigeria is talking about the fact that 100 Naira is still legal tender. How many of them have things that they purchase that are 100 Naira, or even services? Hardly, maybe none of them. But we move on to our next conversation this morning. The Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, retired on Wednesday, directed security personnel engaged in counter-terrorism and anti-banditry operations not to hesitate in confronting armed criminals. He warned that any operative who fails to act under the guise of awaiting orders will be treated as aiding the enemy. Speaking in Sokoto during the commissioning of security assets procured by the Sokoto state government, the minister stressed that troops must take decisive action against terrorists and bandits whenever the situation demands. And he says, and I quote, he says, once you are deployed, do not wait for any order from anybody to shoot any bandit or any terrorist. But we'll see how people are reacting to this conversation. You know, the conversation about security is one that I'm not sure we'll have enough of, from the front pages to social listening to every single gathering that can gather. It's security, security, security. A comment from Olatek. Olatek says, the message is clear. Protect lives and act decisively against armed threat. At the same time, every operation should remain professional, lawful, and focused on keeping innocent civilians safe. That's from Ola Tech OlaFX_54. Claire 7 says, same you people that sentence someone to death for self-defense against herdsmen. This country will never cease to amaze me. Shaking my head, and she covers her face. Do we have more reactions to this conversation on social media? And Imagine says, they are finally waking up. Make sure it's only bandits and terrorists you're shooting. No, that's very key. Very, very key. Imozeme Jacob says, soldiers shouldn't have to wait for phone calls before taking action against terrorists attacking innocent people. Also, it's time to end the idea of treating terrorists like prodigal sons and reintegrating them. Exactly. Justice, accountability, and public safety must come first. In fact, I have a simple saying that I like to say. I always like to say, where is the justice? It's lacking. It's missing. It's almost non-existent. And we are, as Nigerians, we are the ones that are fighting our battles ourselves. Even when these people come and say, you know what, the authorities come and say, oh, XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. How proactive are they? We have more of a reactive government as against a proactive government, which is really bad. So it puts you as a citizen, you have to be the one thinking a step ahead to find your solutions, to protect yourself, to preserve yourself in a country like this. And that's the reality of things, right? It's one thing to say this, is another thing to see how proactive the entire system is, because only one person can be proactive. It has to be an entire system, and we cannot continue to be reactive. But we move on now to our final conversation for today. The 2027 presidential candidate of the Nigeria Democratic Congress, NDC, Mr. Peter Obi, says he may not be alive to contest next year's presidential election. Mr. Obi, who is a former governor of Anambra State, disclosed this in a podcast interview with media personality Chude Jidonwo, which was posted on Facebook on Wednesday. That's a picture of Mr. Peter Obi. Now, during this interview, Mr. Jidonwo asked the NDC candidate whether there was any possibility that he would not fly the party's flag in the 2027 presidential election. Now, in his words, it says, and I quote, it says, not even a candidate. I might not even be alive, I'm telling you. This was his response, alleging that the current Nigerian government has been frustrating his activities and targeting opposition figures. Now, this conversation has led to a lot of reactions online, with people asking, has he really got into that? We thought it was just politics. But has it got to the point where they're frustrating his businesses, frustrating his existence, almost even possibly killing him, according to what he had to say? I don't know if you have the video. We can just take a look at the video. But in the absence of that, we can just view some of the reactions on social media and see how Nigerians are reacting to this conversation. There's a comment from them, Mama Pikin. It says, Tinubu and APC are scared of Peter Obi because of the numbers of votes he used in winning the 2023 election. But they rigged it. The trauma has not left Tinubu and APC. God pass una. I agree. Do we have more reactions to this conversation? There's a comment from St. Vincent, says, these people know what they're doing. Peter Obi is a strong opponent. They obviously want to weaken him, but it no go work for them. It no go work for them. I agree. Dante says, I understand that we all want a new government. However, I don't trust this Peter Obi, because I don't want to believe that you have dined with these politicians for years, but all of a sudden you developed a voice when you want to become president. It's suspicious. I mean, every conspiracy theory is welcome. It's allowed. Everyone is free to their opinion. Everyone is free to see the other side of the coin. Everyone is free to analyze the things that we're not saying. It's a free world. Dante says, I understand. Okay, that's a comment I already read. Do we have more reactions to this story? In the absence of that, I do wish Mr. Peter Obi best of luck if he decides to contest. Hopefully, there's not going to be more. Hopefully, he's able to weather the storm. Hopefully, he's able to stay sane amidst the whole politicking going on here and there. Maybe this is also his own political scheme, you know. But whatever it's for what it's worth, I just hope that our politicians can play a very fair game, you know. No need to try to frustrate Mr. Peter Obi's business. No need to try to, if you see him as so much of a strong opponent, then it says something that he's doing something right. So we might as well allow the the elections go fairly. If he decides to contest, good and fine for him. I'm not going to be a what they call it, a bishop or a pope saying that they're not going to rig the elections, but as much as possible, I would just enjoin or encourage just being a voice of the people to say that our authorities, our government officials, our politicians need to be more just, need to be more fair, need to be more fair in how they look for power, need to be more particular about serving, not about just holding on to power or looking for power just for their own purpose. But I'll rest it here today. This has been as much as we could take this morning on the social listening segment right here on Business Morning Live. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Until tomorrow, stay safe.
As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809-645-3535 or Shegun on 0812-024-3167 or Daniel on 0802-756-4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business. As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809-645-3535 or Shegun on 0812-024-3167 or Daniel on 0802-756-4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business. As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809-645-3535 or Shegun on 0812-024-3167 or Daniel on 0802-756-4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business.
What we've been doing, since I was appointed, I probably sent out initial Nigerian music industry roadmap to about 100 stakeholders who are players in the industry, from bankers and investors, label owners, rights owners, major artists, publishers, platforms, radio and TV companies. And we got like a 90% revert. Everybody was pretty much aligned that these are the things we need to do. So when we're trying to architect those things we need to do, what we now said is, okay, look, foundationally, we need to have a Nigerian Music Business Council, which sort of takes possession of the music industry and owns certain key things. So we want to have a national center of excellence for music, which is a tertiary level institution that can graduate up to 1,000 plus every year in undergraduate, master's, PhD, and diplomas, and postgraduate diplomas, because we need to canonize the music. We need to understand that our music is over 1,000 years old, and that value and that heritage and culture is extremely important. If you don't do the academic work, if you don't storify, if you don't canonize it, it will never be given the same level as European classical music. And you must do that to get to that level. When you get to that level, that's how you can monetize at the same level.
Ownership and fear is two different things. It's like when we come together to create a business, there's masters and there's publishing. What we own most times is a small chunk of masters. We normally don't own publishing. So the artists already have 100. So if you own 90, the artist still owns 110 over you. So sometimes I feel like we have to communicate better because it's misleading and might create problems. But I think the future is partnership, where we come together and partner together. The whole era of who owns, who doesn't own is moving with the times, but ownership is what the future says. When you think about the framework of partnership, you understand what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. If the artist controls his creative, because that's why you have them, why do you want to dampen the creativity? Your job is to advise and bring your own best to the table, while let the artists do what they do, which are their creatives. You let them thrive. And the goal for us is we're creating an ecosystem where we let artists create freely.
K-pop industry, I guess, right, the playlist is quiet, right, just right, it's a slow, but, when people, consume with education, I mean, like, who just like learned Afrobeat or learn K-pop, and then they just like knows their, knowledges. They just gain their knowledge, and then it gets, more deeper, and that can be the depths with our K-pop, because the higher education is so upper class in South Korea. Maybe like 70% of like people just go to university and then just learn everything. So that's why like we can just like I teach also K-pop too. So like I can just like give them, and then they just like have some infrastructure, and then from that like they just like consume with the K-pop by learning, and that will be just like I can give you guys just like the point of view.
As the artist, the only thing you should look out for is a lawyer that will critically review the agreement on your behalf. And as an entertainment lawyer, or rather as an artist, the questions you should ask your lawyer is duration. How long are you tied to that agreement? What happens after the termination or expiration of the agreement? What are the post-termination or expiration terms of the agreement? For a performing artist, for instance, do you have a reversion right? Does your rights come back to you after a certain period of time? What's on the table for you? What are you making out of the agreement? Also, what are your obligations? Just so that you're double sure. There are things that you can actually meet, and then that's it basically. Just once you have all of that and a few others, you're good.
I think I want to first commend the effort that has been put up onto this moment, because we've seen it that Afrobeat is actually booming. So the gap, I would say, still remains in revenue collection, because we are making a lot of money, but there's still gaps in how we collect the revenue. It is no news that there's still the debates as to what a CMO is relevant what is happening. I think if we're able to, at the very least, even sort out what that looks like, things will be way better. Thank you.
Okay. The industry is actually ripe for investment. But one of the things that we need to do, that we've agreed as a group really to do, is that we need to bring structure into the industry. Investments will not be, it won't be individualized. Okay, we're looking at investing in the industry as an ecosystem. So build ecosystems and structures where we're able to scale dramatically the potential that we have as Afrobeat. Afrobeat is no longer about visibility. The visibility of Afrobeat has drawn global attention. It's now about how we can monetize that value and make sure that one of the numbers that we saw on the screen, which was the comparison with the Korean music pop industry, right? You see that for us, we've grown by 15%. But in terms of revenue, the Korean was at several billions, worth millions, right? That's something that we need to change, and that's what investment will do. But investment will only flow after we have monetized value.
We've come to understand that a lot of things are ongoing behind the scenes on a federal level that would help transform the industry, to be of like maximum benefit to artists, producers, composers generally. And these reforms would help in terms of the global monetization of IP, right? Which would also create avenue for funding, financing of artists, talents, and these related activities. So I think it's we need summits like this, to help bring this information to the public and also give people insight about what the creative economy, what the music industry is all about, and also enlighten artists as to what they need to know in terms of the brand protection, their IP rights, and all that.
For the African space right now, we are in a place where music, especially Afrobeat, is becoming so big. Look at our Dirty December, look at our conferences, look at the international conferences we are having, look at stadiums are being filled, the O2 arenas. It's become a big deal right now, and that's what we do. We allow people who go to those kind of events, like the kind of Burna Boy events, go to a Wizkid conference, and imagine your pictures, you can find it after the conference. Imagine you attend your rave in December, and you're not just left with those faint memories. You can say, oh yeah, you not just go to their social media platform and start searching for pictures. You know that your pictures, your own picture, Nami get that picture, Nami get that. So that's it. That's the Nami thing.
As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809 645 3535 or Shegun on 0812 024 3167 or Daniel on 0802 756 4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business. As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809 645 3535 or Shegun on 0812 024 3167 or Daniel on 0802 756 4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business. As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information,